Hi everyone, I'm Heidi with the Ann Arbor District Library, and today's program I'm really excited for. It's a screen printing project. Now it's not a real complicated one. It's not like where you need to have, silk mesh screens and a photo emulsion to expose the image onto the screen. It's not quite that professional level, but it is still a fun and effective craft. All we're going to need today is an embroidery hoop. This is an 8-inch size hoop, like an 8-inch or 10-inch is good to have. Just a pair of pantyhose that we're going to use to make the screen with, and then this Mod Podge glue to paint areas to create a resist. So let's get started. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. I have materials laid out for the first stage of this process, which is really the main process, which is creating the screen. So we are again using nylon pantyhose type of material today for making our screen, and this one had a little bit of a hole in it, so that works out really great to reuse it. I have an embroidery hoop. Wooden embroidery hoop works best, I feel, and this one is about an 8-inch diameter, which gives a lot of good room for when you are doing the screen printing, so you have room to work to pull your ink across the image. So I think 8 inches is a nice way to go. Anything getting too much bigger, it can be difficult to get the pantyhose on. If you get a really big size, that could help though. So I'm just going to remove the inner ring and place the pantyhose over the ring. And you can get quite a few screens out of a pair of pantyhose because you don't need very much space. In fact, I'm going to pull that nice and tight. In there. Okay. You want to have some excess though so that it doesn't slip out of the hoop later. That could be a tragedy. Now, set that in there. I'm going to tighten it just a little bit by holding onto the screw and then turning this post. Okay, it's pretty secure in there, and they're just lightly tugging on the material to pull it tight on the other side. You do have to be gentle, especially with a wooden hoop. You might need to sand it down a little bit. Just make sure it's smooth, because otherwise it can catch and create a run, and that can affect the final screen. All right, so I want to get it fairly tight, but not you don't want to go too tight. It's kind of a trial and error. You just don't want to be too tight so that the screen holes are too big. I can really kind of pull on this a bit more. Oh yeah. Alright, so that's on there pretty well. I did get a little bit of a snag, but fortunately it's not on the screen side, so that won't be a problem. And now I'm going to cut away the excess, and you want to make sure that you leave a good edge, a good amount of it. Just so it doesn't ever accidentally slip out of the hoop. Away the excess. Alright. And alright. So I'm going to place my screen down, and this is the image that I'm working with. Flip it so you can see it right side. I got this from a website called the Noun Project, and they have all kinds of free clip art images you can use for different kinds of projects that you can download, which is really great. And then I have this Mod Podge, just went with the matte glue. Really have to have Mod Podge. This is the key to this craft. I tried it with other glue, and it just doesn't behave the same. Mod Podge is great for doing decoupage and it has some kind of sealant aspect, some kind of like plastic quality to it that works really well for blocking out the screen. And scissors already have used, had 2 pairs today. And then next I just have some brushes. I'm mainly going to be using this one as a smaller one, size 2. Painting the glue on is going to take some time, and I recommend doing it in stages. So you'll see that I'm going to do 1 coat, and I'm going to come back in and kind of fill in more. Might even sometimes need a 3rd touch-up in certain areas. I chose an image that didn't have too much detail as well, because it can be kind of challenging to have anything that's too overly detailed. And the other nice thing about working this way with this project, if I had something that was, had writing, it would still end up being, you wouldn't have to reverse it. It'll be the right side, facing once you make your screen. So that's another cool thing about this. So I have here basic craft paint brushes. This is a number 2. I have a 4 and a bigger flat brush because, again, we're going to be putting glue in all these areas except for, where the image is black. Another thing that can be useful too is to draw your image on the screen, using a Sharpie. I'm just trying to use like a small fine point one because I did use a fatter Sharpie and it's permanent, but somehow when I did a screen print, some of the ink bled through the first couple times. So I will do that. I'm just going to try to draw that image loosely. Okay, so if you can see, it's on there a little bit. Alright, now ready to paint on the glue. So to create our areas of resist. I have used a piece of parchment paper that I taped to a square piece of cardboard. I just like to have that so I can protect my work surface, and also it's really great because when this needs to dry, I can leave it laying flat. I can just lift this and move it away as needed. Alright, so I'm going to shake up the Mod Podge and just start to paint that on. And I have an even tinier brush, which I hope is going to work for doing the nose. First, just going to see how it. So, especially the nose, that's kind of one of those finer details that I'm going to be careful about, but also it's probably not going to end up being a real precise little triangle. We'll see. And as you add the layers of glue, after it dries, you'll be able to get a little bit more, of the detail and shaping than you do sometimes initially. Okay, so just paint it on. And do be patient about letting it dry. I usually let it dry, 24 hours in between. So you can kind of see where I was talking about how it sometimes the nylon screen, it resists when putting the glue down. So I'll just kind of leave it, and again, as it dries, when I do the second layer, I'll be able to get at those holes a little bit more. So the first one, just kind of getting it down as best you can. And then also getting it pretty close to the edge. I'm going to be careful because I don't want to get it glued to the hoop. So just going pretty close to the edge. Sometimes you can paint on the other side to push that excess of glue around where you need it. Just be careful as I get close to where the image is. And if you do make a little bit of a goof, you can carefully absorb it with a little piece of paper towel or something like that. It's got part of the paintbrush on there. Try and dab it away while the glue's still wet, so it won't be a tragedy. Yeah, and then, like I was saying, with those detail areas, if I zoom in, you can see how there's not a lot of glue in that area right now. I will have to go through later once it's dry and just kind of keep adding in very carefully with a finer brush. Alright, so first layer, pretty good. I'm just going to leave it where it is and let it dry. Come back tomorrow and add another coat. Here is the first layer dried now after about 24 hours. And you can kind of see where the light's reflecting how it's not a very even layer. There's some areas where the glue is thicker. Where it is thicker, though, it's really nice and smooth, and it's very much like a plastic feel to it. And the nice thing, too, about the Mod Podge, it is helping to set up the screen. It's giving it a certain tension that's going to work out really well for when we are going to be using it for screen printing, because you have to pull the ink down. You'll see that coming up soon. I'm trying to show you if you can see where the light is hitting. There are some areas, though, where there's actually holes in the screen that I still need to fill. So definitely 2 coats are going to be needed, and we'll see after the second coat if I need to go in and do a 3rd coat. And here we are a couple days later with the completed screen. You can kind of notice here it's got a nice thick coating of that glue, and the glue is really nice and tight surface. It's very much like a sheen of plastic on the nylon. So I'm gonna try out printing. So I have this piece of cardboard, which it's good to lay that down. If you're just printing a piece of fabric, you just put your fabric over that. However, I have this tote bag from our Tiny Expo, and I am just going to try printing on the back side. So I will place the cardboard inside, that way my ink won't bleed onto the front of the bag. Okay? There we go. And placing my screen, I guess I'll just put this basically by eye. That's kind of in the center. Okay. Now, the inks I'm using, they are this screen printing ink. You can find them at craft stores, or there's an art store in Dearborn called Blick Arts. You can also order them online from just about any of those types of stores. And this one in here, somebody had mixed it, so it's not that pale blue color. It's a little bit different, darker blue, so we'll just see how that looks against the pink. And it's stirred up pretty well. Let's take some out. And whoop, get some on here. Kind of make a line of it, so it's going to go all the way, to cover the whole image. Okay, that should be enough. Now I have, this is an old pottery tool. You could use a stiff piece of cardboard, or if you have an old credit card or some kind of plastic type of card, maybe an old membership card or something like that that you're not using anymore, you could certainly use that. And it can be helpful to have two hands, extra hands that is, to have somebody push down on the screen so that it doesn't shift. I'm just going to do my best here to spread my hand and give it some good pressure. And just get my... Basically, this would be called a squeegee. I just don't have an official professional screen printing squeegee with me today. All right, and place this on here. Just really confidently, I'm pressing down. I'm going to pull. Sometimes it's good. There's a little bit of excess, or maybe you didn't get the whole image. Kind of do it a second time. I think that's a nice coating on there. Let's set that aside. Very carefully lift this. Oop, got a little on there. That's okay. We can clean that up. There we have a cat image. Zoom in. The nose is very tiny, so I could wash this off, and if I was going to go back in, maybe I could work on making the nose bigger, but I kind of like how it is. It's pretty cute, pretty simple. I have another screen that I made that, why don't we try adding those, is a star, so I'm going to add some stars on here too, so you can see that process one more time. Okay, so I have that other screen that I made that I'm going to show you. But first I was just going to notice that I pulled the cardboard out, and this is how much ink bled through. This is a pretty open weave of fabric, but I kind of like how it came out with that texture like that. So screen printing, it doesn't have to just be for t-shirts and sweatshirts. You can screen print on any kind of material. It's just a matter of having the right medium to be using, meaning the right kind of ink or the right kind of paint. So just to make sure I don't, get ink somewhere I don't want it, I'm going to place a piece of paper in there as well so that won't bleed through. And put my cardboard back into here. And I waited for this to dry. I actually hit it with a hairdryer. When I'm done printing, I'm going to go through and use an iron. I will put a piece of fabric or like a towel on top of this, and then just with the heat of the iron, press onto that ink, and that will help it, it be fully cured into the fabric so that it won't wash away so easily. I did notice some of these inks I have mention that they are not textile inks. They're not made for clothing that would be washed repeatedly, so there are some different kinds of inks out there to be aware of when you are looking to purchase something, if you are. Alright, so let's move this over. I had to make sure that's dry because where I wanted to lay the screen, it was going to touch. So I want to put the star kind of near the cat. I'll zoom out a little bit here. Alright. And I mixed together a couple other colors. See what this kind of purple, how this is going to turn out. And now this design is a little bit bigger, so I'm not going to be able to access the whole image with one pull of my squeegee. And I may have actually overdone it on that cat. Like, I don't think I needed to pull it the second time like I did. I think that may have applied a little more ink than was needed, and I probably would have a little bit clearer image. Again, this is not a perfect screen printing process. This is for fun. It's not going to be super, clear detail kind of thing, but it's fun for making a couple one-off. I'm having fun anyway. Alright, so I'm going to get that on my squeegee. Alright, so it looks like got the whole star covered. Lifting it carefully. There it is. fun. I'm going to do another one if I can. Over on the other side, the other corner. Mix paper. Okay. Let's see. I still have a lot of ink here. Just scrape that off. And usually screens, you're going to pull in one direction. Oops. But this one doesn't have a specific alignment. So I could really go at it from any which way. Alright. Now also this screen, I didn't get glue all the way to the edge of it like I did on the other one. So I'm just going to make sure I don't have any ink there. That's going to get on my fabric. I was able to clean off, if you get to it right away, the damp cloth with some water. If you have ink somewhere you didn't want it, you can clean it up pretty quick. Alright, so back to, and I don't know if you can see, another thing I was going to mention, there's a couple little dots, so they even that screen, as much as I scrutinized it, there was still a couple areas that did not become fully covered in the glue. That's alright. I like it. Okay. Make sure we're fully on camera. Alright. Now let's get my ink ready. Oh, cool. I might put a few more stars on there. See, I got some on my cat, but that's alright. It'll just add to the shading. Okay, I just wanted to show you now. We're at the end of the program, and here is my finished piece. I have 4 stars and my cat in the middle, and I really love it. This project was so much fun, and I really look forward to doing more screen printing. I'm already looking at t-shirts and other things in my house that I can add imagery to. And I'm going to show you, even on this is a very professional screen print created by Modati. They come to a lot of our events and do screen printing for us on the tote bags. And just you can notice in the lines, or in the words, there's those little lines and dots and things like that. And that's so cool. I mean, that's part of the look of screen printing, is sometimes there's like a little bit of a distressed action to the image. So something a little bit different than a block printing would provide, even though block printing we have lots of variants in the image too. So really good times. Here are my screens after I've washed them, and still holding up really well. As long as you wash your ink off right away so it doesn't dry anywhere on the screen, you'll be able to use it. You just have to make sure the glue has dried again after washing it. So sometimes it starts to absorb some of the water, so just be kind of careful. You don't want to soak it. Be gentle when you're washing it because it does get a little bit fragile. But I think these will hold up for a while. We'll see. So you could get quite a few prints off of these screens that we made just using, again, the Mod Podge and embroidery hoops and a pair of pantyhose. All right, thanks for joining me for another craft program, and I hope you guys have a really great day.